Hi everyone, my name is Corme, and today I want to give you guys some commentary on a 29 Junkyard we tested last week with the affixes Bursting, Volcanic, and Fortified. So before I start this video, I want to give you guys some kind of like the background for my choices in my essences. So you're going to notice that I'm actually not running Way of the Crane in this dungeon. So the main reason I chose not to run Way of the Crane is number one, I don't think I need the damage, and number two, it's a safety play. So I think Lucid is actually pretty useful for things like Gunker and last boss where you actually could have some mana problems. Like I said, I don't think we need the damage from Way of the Crane. We decided that we just wanted to go for the one chest. We're just going to pull this dungeon basically one pack at a time because this dungeon has been two chested so many times. We know we can go really slow. As long as we don't die and we don't lose our bots, it's an easy chest for us, and we didn't really want to try and go for the two chests because this is the first time we did a 29. The other thing is that while I do love Way of the Crane in like King Gobamax's room and stuff like that, I don't actually like it very much in Gunker's room because due to like the nature of the consume, either you have to dispel yourself to stay in the consume and keep Way of the Craning on all of the mobs, or you have to wait until after the consume is done to go in and use your Way of the Crane. And even if you do that, the people that you're most scared about in that room dying, because I have two ranged in this comp, I'm really scared about my hunter and mage from dying to the gnome eating slime AoE, and Way of the Crane actually isn't going to really help me there because both of my range are going to be standing at range due to the consume, so they're not going to be getting prioritized for the healing at that point. There is a way that you could coordinate having your ranged come in and be there for the Way of the Crane, but I liked to just focus heal my hunter and mage here instead of running Way of the Crane. You could easily do this dungeon with Way of the Crane. You can almost always two chests most junkyards, especially when you're running Way of the Crane. That's going to help out. All the DPS helps out. I just want to give you an explanation as to why on this key I chose to run Lucid, but Way of the Crane I think is just as good. That was just my justification for not doing it on a key that we were taking this slowly. Okay, so we'll start. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you get inside a junkyard to set up is make sure that you assign a bot to everyone. So there's a couple bots that you can get if you have the ability to drop combat by the tree and inside the cave. So we have our mage go inside the cave and get bots, and our rogue is going to go by the tree, and then our hunter, even though he could also go get those bots, he's just going to get the zap bot that's on top of the hill. And then I'm going to get the zap bot that's on the bottom of the hill, and then our warrior is going to go and get the zap bot that's by the two coil bears. And then by the first pull, when we lust, everyone's going to have a zap bot. So we normally pull these two scrap bots. Our tank just barely hits them, so it's really important that your DPS aren't greeting and hitting these scrap bots at all, so the tank can just go set up for the pull. While he's going to grab those two coil bears and get those bots, I'm going to get this grease bot. Normally, I would give this grease bot to a DPS, but like I said, we're playing this dungeon really safe. I want the extra haste for Gunker's room, so I go and get it. You just have to end cap that gnome eating slime when he's at his max pat range, and then you need to ring him away, and then you like, as long as you stay as far as you can from that grease spot when you go to get it, you won't get in combat with it. You also could just have, again, if you have like a demon hunter or something in the group, they'll really love you if you get that for them for this first pull. So yeah, we're just going to DPS down these coil bears and stuff. So the tank already has a welding bot because he got his with his. And then this first welding bot that we see right here that's next to the 3-pack, our hunter is going to get. And then I'm really just looking to get a welding bot from a mage after that because these no-baiting slimes are going to tear him apart as well. Just making sure we're staying away from the scrap bots. So you're going to see our hunter grab this welding bot. So we usually pull this in 3 pulls, and there's going to be a toxic monstrosity in each, 1 no-baiting slime in each, and then 2 other mobs. It's either a toxic lurker or the slime wave guys. So normally the first consume that happens when we get in this room, I usually like to revival. So if you have multiple melee, you just tell them stay in for this first one and I'll revival it off. Of course, our warrior is always spell reflecting. After that, I usually like to pick a melee DPS to dispel every time. In this case, we only have the rogue, so I dispel the rogue. But let's say we had some other kind of melee in the group, like a demon hunter or something, I would always dispel the demon hunter. I usually wouldn't choose to dispel the rogue because the rogue has such a far melee range that it's not until like the end of the consume that he actually gets kind of cucked by the consume and can't attack things. Alternatively, if you have a tank that doesn't have a disease dispel or reflect, maybe you choose to dispel them. I don't know, I haven't really run this dungeon with like a DK or DH tank before. Okay, so we're going to do the next pull, which is going to be a lurker, a slime elemental, a no-mating slime, and the toxic monstrosity again, of course. So this is where we're going to kind of see how much damage my ranged DPS are really taking from that no-mating slime. It does a lot of damage. So you're going to see I dispelled the rogue there, a cocoon, our mage, and he's combusting. One of the slime elemental casts does get off, but I don't dispel it. Normally I'm just scared to dispel here because I'm afraid there's going to be another toxic monstrosity cast. I'm not going to have a dispel for the rogue. So I'm usually pretty skittish about dispelling that, especially if it's on the tank. If it's on someone else, I might dispel it and just tell my rogue, hey, you need to run out. I don't know if I'm going to have my dispel. That's something else you can also do. Really nice about having voice chat. Okay, so we're going to finish up this pull, and we have one more pull like this. So on that pull, I used Cocoon on my mage, and he caught it, so we're a little bit scared. So we're going to play this one pretty safe. So we have a lurker, a slime elemental. We're going to get that no-mating slime and that toxic monstrosity. Whenever we're feeling ready, I think after our tank gets his kick, he likes to go pull after that. So this pull does go a little awry because we... I don't know if we like... I think we just missed the kick on the toxic lurker here. So you see it go off my mage, so I actually dispel him. And then I don't have a dispel for our rogue, so I call for him to cloak. And he cloaked just in the nick of time before he cheated there. So yeah, you just want to make sure you're getting that lurker kick. If you can't get the lurker kick, like I said, you can dispel it and it stops the channel. The channel, of course, is stunning your DPS, so they can't really do anything while they're in that channel. But ideally, you get the kick and you have them coordinated. Towards the end there, after our mages combust, he just elected to block the last few ticks of the no-mating slime, and he's sitting in it because he doesn't want to get hit by the consume. Again, we're just playing this dungeon super safe because the timer is insanely lenient here. Okay, so we're gonna finish off this toxic monstrosity, and then we're gonna pull the mobs that are next to the boss. So this is just 2 slime elementals and a lurker, so it's not really anything scary. I'm gonna talk to you guys a bit about Gunker. So when you pull Gunker, he's immediately going to stop your drink, so you want to make sure that your tank doesn't pull until you have the amount of mana that you think you're going to need for the fight. When you pull, you want to find the squirt bot that is the melee bot, and you want to put that squirt bot on focus. So when these squirt bots get gooped, you can dispel them if you have a disease dispel. Most of the time, the squirt bots are honestly just going to get cleaved down by the zap, but sometimes it's really bad timing and it's really clutch if you have that dispel. So you're going to see that I put that squirt bot on focus so I can dispel him whenever I need to. Alright, so Gunker has 2 abilities, Coalesce and Toxic Wave. So Coalesce, you actually don't need to be in a squirt bot for Coalesce. You actually just need to make sure that there is not a green puddle between you and the boss. Coalesce is the ability that like pulls you in and is really annoying because if you're in a bot, you kind of have to keep stutter stepping in order to stay in the bot, not get pulled into him. And if you get Corruption Slowed, it could be GG's for you because then you can't get out fast enough. So a lot of times I just stand out here, and this allows you to kind of have the freedom to like get some casts off and stuff like that without having to stutter step. But also if you're in a squirt bot, you're also usually pretty fine, especially since you're a monk. The other ability, Toxic Wave, that's the one that kind of like the wave that follows him and spreads out from him. You do want to be in a squirt bot for that. You don't actually have to be in a squirt bot, you just have to be behind a squirt bot. And then you won't get gooped, but then like the squirt bot's moving, so you might get ran into like a green circle like that. That information's not really as useful as the Coalesce because you don't get moved by the Toxic Wave, so it's not really a big deal to stay in the squirt bot. It can be useful though if it's quaking, of course, and the quaking lines up with the Toxic Wave to know that you can just stand behind the bot and be completely safe. Other than that, this boss is pretty simple. There is a lot of healing on this boss. It does a deceptively high amount of damage and can get a little bit scary, but it's all pretty static damage. It's not really that bursty. There is a safe spot that ranged can stand. However, I suggest you don't use it because the problem is you're running around Gunker the whole time, right? Because you're a monk, you want to stay in melee. And you're moving with the bot most of the time. And if they stand in the safe spot, like say over here, like 50% of the time they're not gonna be in range of you, and they're still taking a ton of damage from the boss. It doesn't make them immune to the damage, it just makes it so they don't have to deal with the mechanics of staying with the bot. It's probably better they just always stay within range. Okay. So that's basically it for Gunker. After Gunker, we're going to go do the blob. So sometimes we snap this blob. Whether we snap this blob usually depends on combust timing. So if we get to the obelisk and combust is up, we just go in and drag the blob. But if we get to the obelisk and we still have like 10 seconds on combust, so let's have the tank go in solo, snap the tentacles over here, and then we'll all go in. Just because you have that extra time where you're waiting for combust anyways, and having ignite just kill the tentacles is really efficient. Okay, so we're going to drag the blood over to Trixie and Naeno's room. So the first pull that we do in Trixie and Naeno's room is this 3-pack. It's actually one of my least favorite pulls in dungeons. It's the 2 dogs and the blaster. Deceptively hard pull that somehow always manages to take out at least one of my DPS like every other Junkyard because of this Borg ability. These scrap hounds can really only be stopped with stuns, and when you use AoE stuns it's easier for them to get DR'd, especially since it's really rare for them to actually line up their Borg, which is really aggravating. You can't, so I like swept there but they weren't lined up, but then I baited the diamond one. I got lucky, it chose me so that it wasn't facing at the range and it didn't really matter. You can't stop them with a paralysis. I don't think you can fear them either, and you can ring them though. So I could have actually ringed that one instead of having to bait it around. So the next thing we do is this 5-pack, which we do usually like to lust. You can stop the pat by stopping the mechanic in the front. You can paralysis it, or like we did there, we had a trap. So we lust this. You want to make sure that your DPS are focusing the blasters. It's really hard to get your DPS to focus the blasters when they're jumping around so much, just so you want to make sure your tank is moving around these blasters. But also that mechanic has like a mechanic that's similar to the shield slam and a Talbazar that's kind of like an anti-kite mechanic. So you want to make sure your tank is being careful with their melee DPS when they're moving those mobs around to the blasters, and that's why this pull can get a little bit scary. And also those blasters are doing so much damage, so you want to make sure you're getting a lot of DPS on them and you're cleaving off of them as much as you can to get those other mobs down as well. Okay, so after the 5-pack, go into the 3-pack. It's basically the same thing, but a lot less scary. And then after we do that, we're going to go into the boss. So for Trixie and Naeno, we line them around this kind of building behind them into the corner. And by lining them back in the corner, you make it so that Trixie never does her boogie that makes her like kind of jump around the corners of the room, and she just stays there the whole time, so you can DPS her the whole time. And then you don't have to worry about dodging Naeno because he'll be out here doing his tire ability, and then he just comes back, and then whenever he comes back, you're making sure you're focusing him. The really nice thing about doing this though is that you don't have to pull that crawler. That crawler, I don't even want to imagine trying to heal it on a 29 fortified. I'm glad I never have to find out. And that we always just do this strategy where we just line them around the corner, that way we don't have to pull the crawler. So yeah, we're gonna see, we're all gonna go line. It's really important that when you line, everyone stays lined as long as possible until Trixie stops moving, because if you come out too early, she won't move far enough back. The trick is to make it so that she doesn't have like line to any of the spots where she would normally do her like Oogie Boogie ability. Yeah, so once you're here, just want to make sure you're interrupting the tases. There is nowhere to line the Mega Tase. So if you have a group that does not have a lot of immunities, say something like a Feral Druid and maybe Assassination Rogues because they have a really long vanish time, and oh, I don't know. Does DPS without immunities, this comp might not work. For the Mega Tase, you can either immune it, or if you have like, we have Vanish and Feign Death, those things work as well. You can't line it anywhere in here. You can, however, line the Tase on this spot right here, but you can't line the Mega Tase there. You can just line the Tase if you run out of kicks at some point. Anyways, so when you're back here, you want to make sure that your DPS are focusing Naeno every time. if Trixie gets empowered by Naeno dying, it's a lot more manageable than if Naeno gets empowered by Trixie dying. So you just want to make sure that you're focusing Naeno. But yeah, that's basically it. Just making sure that the Bolt Buster is always being aimed at the same spot so you know that you're not going to get hit by it. Yeah, I'll go ahead and skip this. And then after that, at the boss, we Shroud. And we're going to pull the Scrapbot and some Grunters. These Grunters are also super scary for our ranged DPS, but if your ranged DPS play this well, they can actually completely avoid the damage from the Grunters. We looked at the damage taken after this dungeon, and our mage actually managed to play this room so well he didn't get hit by one Grunter once the whole dungeon. So it is possible. It's also probably because we're pulling a lot smaller than most groups would, because again, we're playing this really safe. But you can see our mage is always making sure to back up. If they get close to him, he's DBing. If they get close again, he's going to Frost Nova. He'll blink away. We're putting down Binding Shot, using Ring, Leg Sweeping, all that kind of stuff to make sure that those Grunters aren't getting too close to our range. Because I think if just 2 of them hit our range DPS, they would actually just fall over because they're so squishy. It's just because myself, the Rogue, and the Tank are all wearing Versatiles that if the Grunters are hitting us, it's not really as big of a deal and it doesn't seem that scary. But on the range DPS, it would be very, very scary for them. So yeah, we're basically just going to kill all these Grunters that are right here because we don't really want to drag them into any of the other pulls because we don't want them basically getting in the way. Okay, so after this Grunter pack, we normally go into this pull, but since we have Big Combust, we decide we're going to pull this Bully into this pull over here. Alright, so there's a few mobs in here that are a little bit scary. The Bully is the obvious scary one, but you can easily just dodge that shockwave. The other thing that's scary, of course, is if you let the Shaman get the Grasping Hex off. Obviously, you always want to interrupt that as much as possible. That should be your #1 priority to interrupt, but if it does go off, you don't have a curse dispel, so you can't dispel it, but you can Tiger's List one person to free them from it. And then also you can freedom yourself from it if you're running away with the crane and you press away at the crane. Other than that, good luck healing through it. The other really scary mob here are these Grinders. So these Grinders do a headbutt and they always do it on the closest target. So whenever you pull this pack, you want to make sure that your tank is not pulling the pack and then dragging the pack into something else, or if they are, they're being really communicative with your melee DPS so that they know that the tank isn't going to be in melee range of them, because that headbutt will always one-shot your DPS. Just want to make sure your tank is always in melee range of those Grinders. That if you need to pull something else with this pack, that hopefully someone else can go pull it for your tank so they don't have to try and drag these mobs. Yeah, this pack is the same thing as the last one, except without a Bully. The Trash Tossers are also really scary. As you can see, like our tank he's calling out whenever he's moving to this Trash Tosser with the Grinders to the Rogue to make sure that he's staying back as far as he can so that he's not going to get hit by these Grinders whenever he's having to kite these mobs onto the Trash Tosser so that we can cleave them. Okay, that's the end of this pull. This next pull is just a Bully, a Scrapbot, a bunch of Grinders again. We see the Ring of Frost coming down. I'm sure you can see the binding that's down. After all that's down, I'm probably going to ring. We're going to sweep, and then our ranged DPS are just going to be tiptoeing around, making sure they're doing their best not to get hit by Grinders as much as possible, or Grunters as much as possible. Okay, that was not a good ring. It went up. That was a useless ring. Okay, so after this pull, we pull these 2 Trash Tossers and the Grinder. Okay, so these Trash Tossers are really scary for your ranged DPS as well. I know I keep saying that, but this whole dungeon is so scary for them. So we usually elect to you want to try and focus one of these down as much as possible. It also makes it a lot easier to cleave if you just focus one down, because they're always jumping around and it's really hard to get them not to. Warrior Conflict and Strife Major, the Root Clap, can stop them from jumping around if you do the timing correctly as well. Again, there's also a Grinder in this pull, so it's really annoying to keep kiting towards those Trash Tossers for the tank as well. So next we're going to do the 2 Bullies, and then we have to get like 4 Grunters or whatever to finish off our count. So we pull this in. Okay, so then after this, we're going to do King Gobbamac. So normally, when we pull King Gobbamac, we put some markers down on each of the pillars, and we each pick a pillar. That's just like a quality of life thing that makes it a lot easier, so you don't have to move as much. It'll be more efficient. The scariest part of this boss is the Charge Smash. So both of our DPS are Wearing, if not, they're very close to avoidance cap, mostly just for this charge smash, because when the charge smash goes off, it does a lot of damage, and if there's always grunters when charge smash is going off, because you can't get rid of the grunters until the charge smash goes off and you charge the pillars. If those grunters hit any of your DPS the same time the charge smash goes off, it's probably GG. There's a couple ways to combat this. You can AoE stun them right when the charge smash is going off, or you can ring them. AoE stunning them is definitely the preferred method, because when you AoE stun them inside the charge smash, as soon as the charge smash goes off, it's going to kill all of these grunters. So you can see, I think our warrior thunderclapped them and they all immediately died. And then out of that, nobody took any melees from grunters, so they're all really safe to just go and charge their pillar. If they came out of that charge smash and then they got meleeed by one, it would be probably GG for them. Ring works well. Ring works kind of well because it makes it so they're not getting meleeed the exact moment that the charge smash goes out. However, they're still there when your DPS have to go run to charge their pillar. So they'll get like a second to be healed, but then they can also still get hit by the grunter. So I always prefer for us to do a AoE stun instead. So this overlap right here is the scariest, where we get the charge smash right into the rumble, but it's pretty manageable as long as your DPS led the charge smash. I think the rumbles are always pretty simple to heal through. You can always call for immunes in the group as well. Just want to make sure that you always have your Thunder Focus T for it, and you pre-Essence Font, and you pre-cast your Vivify before the damage goes out. Yeah, other than that, this boss is pretty simple. I like swept that one, so we were safe. Yeah, after this, we're going to go into the Tank Buster. So we're going to pull the Tank Buster, and we're going to drag him towards the last boss, towards the Fear Obelisk. It's right in front of the last boss. So we drop the Tank Buster, and we're going to Shroud. We're just making sure we're not going to get these cats that are right here. And again, we're gonna pull this area really slow. You can actually do all of this in one big pull on a lot of keys, but we're just taking this really slow because we just we want the easy one chest and to keep all of our bots without having to backtrack at all. The only thing to really look out for here is making sure you're interrupting the coil bearer. There's no renormalizer here, and your tank is going to be getting the stacking bleed right here, which at 2 stacks isn't that bad, but once you start getting upward at 4 stacks, can really start adding up and hurting your tank a lot. Especially if they're bad with physical damage, but a warrior's not, so it's not really a problem at all for us. So pull this coil bearer in. After we kill that other pack with 2 coil bearers, we just do this 6-pack. We miss a shrink cast. We always like to try and make sure that we're staying spread out in case one of those gets out. It's pretty easy to just dispel. It's also pretty easy to kick, but the kick gets missed all the time in this pack. As you can see, our tank does have 4 stacks here, so I think he was getting a little bit scared about the amount of damage he was taking. So ended up walling here. And then after these die, we're going to go into the Fear Obelisk. So we do decide that we want to go kill the spider obby. We skipped some trash earlier, and we're going to kill the trash that's right in front of the spider obby, and then we're going to kill the spider obby, and then we're going to take that to the last boss just to play. Again, we just want to play this dungeon giga safe, get the easy one chest. So we pull the Fear Obby over here. We're going to pull this 3-pack that's right in front of the spider obby. I think it's like a trooper, a cat, and oh yeah, 2 troopers and a cat. So the only really scary thing here is the prowler. I was really scared of this trooper and thought it was going to do a lot of damage. It was only ticking for like 40% of my hunter's health each tick. I thought it was going to be way worse on a 29, but it actually wasn't that bad. So we just kill this 3-pack, go inside the spider obby. We're going to drag the spider obby up here. Okay, so in this pack right here, there's this 5-pack. It has the cavalier guy, a renormalizer, a trooper, and I think a coil bearer inside. So what we care about right here is this renormalizer. So this renormalizer has that buff that he casts on someone else, or if he's the only one alive, it'll cast on himself, called Enlarge. And your mage can spell steal that if you have a mage, and it gives them a bunch of extra damage done. And we really care about having that extra damage done buff for killing the oppression unit, like the 2nd phase of the boss, the burn phase, because it basically guarantees that we're going to get past that checkpoint. So one way you can do this is you can trap the renormalizer, pull the pack, kill the pack, and then you keep the renormalizer alive, and then you have the mage steal the buff, you start the boss, keep it alive, you break it right before you go into the burn phase, the mage steals the buff, and then you kill it. You'll see us do it that way. The other way you can do it though is you can actually just ring of peace through a normalizer out. If you just angle the ring of peace so the center is right next to it and it just rings him out, you can pull just through a normalizer without pulling anything else. Sometimes when I do it, it does actually pull one trooper, but I don't think pulling one trooper is really a big deal. But we elect, because it works out for the count pretty well, that we usually just end up pulling this 5-pack and killing this trash. It's not that inefficient for us. So we just kill this pack, and we're going to keep the renormalizer CC'd back there. Alright, so we're just going to make sure this cavalry guy is dead. So you see the renormalizer come in, so I'm going to CC him again. You see our mage is really big right now because he spell stole it while it was coming in. So we're getting ready to pull the boss, so our mage is going to faunt. After he faunts, we're going to break the renormalizer so that our mage can steal the buff again. Make sure you're kicking shrink. That's the most deadly part of this this mob. It's getting trampled. We get the enlarge. Our mage is going to sheath the renormalizer. I'm going to try and ring it away because I don't want Zap to jump to him, and that's exactly what happened. It jumped all the way from here all the way to the renormalizer because we didn't get the renormalizer far enough. So we're gonna have to try and make sure that we don't kill this renormalizer because we really need it alive for the second phase. So we just have to. The nice part is that our mage gets to keep stealing enlarge when we do it this way, but we also have to get kicks, and we're also scared of it dying to ignite and just other cleave. The real scary part about this boss, of course, is this fulminating zap. Diffuse magic basically makes me take no damage from it, but you can see my hunter and mage are going to be really scared of that debuff every single time. So you want to make sure that you're just sitting here and focusing on healing them. You also want to make sure you are helping with those bots in any way you can. If you have ring up, make sure you're ringing them off your tank and melee. It's really easy for your range to get away from those things, but it's not so easy for your tank. It's really easy for your tank to get trapped. So our mage got 2 in a row there, so we overlapped block and cocoon, but that's okay. Okay, so the boss is almost dead. Our mage has been this whole time sheeping the renormalizer to try and, because whenever he sheeps the renormalizer, it starts regenerating health to keep it alive. So we need to keep it alive for the second phase. It has like a bleed on it or something right now. So we're like waiting for that to go away. And then he's just going to keep sheeping it. And then we're going to do this gauntlet phase. So during this gauntlet phase, I like to just not try up and go and channel. I decided to just stay here and keep healing, because usually by the time I get up there, because I have to keep stopping and healing, I usually have to go right back down. Because normally we go up, we channel it to almost completion, we come down, our mage sets up the enlarge, and then our tank just gets to finish off the channel. Usually all that setup takes so long that it doesn't actually matter if I go up and channel, but you should probably in most of your groups go help channel. Don't be like me. Okay, so we just pulled the renormalizer, we end up with the shrink, we're going to get the enlarge, he's going to spell steal it, and then we tell our tank, okay, finish. So we get to run in and do as much DPS to the suppression unit as possible because it's 29 and this DPS check is pretty tight for us. Forbidden Obsidian Claw here is super good. I understand that maybe a haste trinket might equal more zaps throughout the dungeon and maybe more DPS that way, but beating this damage check right here is super important. I think the Obsidian Claw does a really good job of making sure that you do beat that DPS check. We almost actually don't beat it there. You saw me run out. I was actually scared if we didn't beat it, because we would have had enough time to do another phase if we needed to. We just really didn't want to, and I'm glad we didn't have to. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I know this is an easy dungeon, but hopefully this did give you some insight onto kind of the scarier parts of this dungeon, because there are a lot of scary trash pulls in this dungeon. But yeah, thank you guys so much.